Hi, so really excited to be here today. I'm Sam Steiny, and I'm here today with Fadi, one of the founders of Venture to Impact. We've been hearing a lot of questions from nonprofit organizations around how they should be thinking about this time, which is immensely different than we saw just 6 months ago, and really dealing with transitions, where to focus their efforts, and how to run their business. And so we figured, why not talk to Fadi about this? I've volunteered with Fadi in the past. We were on a trip to Rwanda together last year, which was amazing. So excited to hear his thoughts on the world as it is. So Fadi, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Sam. Thanks so much for the lovely introduction. Yes, my name is Fadi Qassar. I'm a co-founder and the executive director at Venture to Impact. And we're an organization that connects really, really skilled individuals from Salesforce, Netflix, Microsoft, Apple, Google, and many other companies with communities and organizations that need their skills but can never pay for them or access them because they're too disconnected or isolated. So really our mission Venture to Impact is stop the flow of amazingly skilled people into developing contexts to build toilets or paint walls, and really structure that flow of talent around the things that they're really good at, and how do we deliberately use those things to add value into the communities where they're volunteering.
Awesome. Great. Well, I definitely want to hear about how you're thinking about your strategy for V2I at this time. But before we do that, I know a lot of people are really making major adjustments in their lifestyle with work from home, no longer commuting, having kids in the house. I personally have been trying to get into meditation and learning new activities to keep my sanity, staying outside and things like that. How have you been maintaining your own sanity, and how are you thinking about this time?
Yeah, this is an interesting time because it is not the time that we have planned. I'm supposed to be just coming out of a trip, planning to go on another trip. So my year was looking very busy travel-wise. I would be in lots of different contexts, lots of different places, exploring lots of different opportunities for our work, for our volunteers, and for Venture to Impact. And when COVID hit the globe, when the pandemic arrived, I think a lot of us recognized that a lot of things would have to change, and I had to start internally. So I had to focus on really reducing my anxiety, listening to some of the cues in my body, so stress, tension, lack of sleep, any of those things, and then figure out ways around decreasing them. So physical activity has been huge for me, meditation, trying to eat clean. It's really, really difficult. And just cherishing and enjoying time with family, and also spending lots of social time with friends over, hangouts and meet and Facebook and all of that stuff.
So how are you? Just because I'm learning to meditate as well. I'm using an app called 10% Happier, but how do you do that? It's new for a lot of people.
Yeah, super new for me as well. I have a tendency to overinvest in things. And so before I even do anything, I just go and buy everything for that thing that I aspire to do one day. So with meditation, I took a slightly different approach, and I started to look on YouTube to see who is posting free meditations. And so, as you mentioned, this is a new thing for a lot of people. It's a new thing for me. I've only been doing it consistently for a couple of months now, so that's only like 8 weeks. And I've been trying to do 10 to 15-minute meditations on YouTube, and honestly, there's lots and lots of amazing things. The content is totally dependent on what you like, so it's very difficult to kind of recommend things to people just because we all have different preferences. But if you just go to YouTube, type guided meditations, you'll find lots of resources, and that's where I've been learning.
That's awesome. And you said that you're trying really hard to cherish this time, which I think is awesome and so true. But I know you have little ones at home, and that's super hard. So amazing and hard. How are you managing that?
Yeah, so my wife and I are back full time at work. She was on maternity leave, and then she transitioned out of maternity leave during COVID. And now we're both working full time at home and caring for a 1 year old. The good thing with a 1 year old is that they nap about 3 to 4 hours during the day. So these are like 3 to 4 hours that you can count on to get work done. The rest of the time, it's just a matter of structure. So we've implemented a schedule here at home where we piloted for 2 weeks, and it had a few different facets. One facet was, leaning on support from my parents who are nearby. Another facet was just staggering the times when we work to make sure that one of us is with Owen while the other person is working. And we are reviewing it every 3 weeks just to be like, hey, what's working and what's not. So it's work, but it's kind of fun, and I think we're getting the hang of it.
Childcare in 3 week sprints. I like it.
Exactly.
And so how has work life changed? What was the structure of V2I from like an office perspective? Were you all going in an office? Were you all working remotely already? And how has that changed?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, we had been going to a collaborative community space for an office, so kind of a WeWork. It's called Volta, and we're all working from this shared office space together. It was really good because it was social, and there was a lot of like unplanned interactions where one person would get an email and be like, "Oh, hey, I got this email from this person. Do you want to go into a room and talk further about it?" And so I would say some things were a little bit easier, like just sporadic communication, or just figuring out what the other person is working on and where they might need your support. But then the other thing pre-COVID was that we're a really small organization, we're really lean, and we deliver a lot of programs. So what that means is that there's always someone traveling, there's always someone on the road, and there's always someone trying to set up the next program, the next corporate lunch and learn, the next NGO partnership. And so there was a lot of moving pieces, and it felt like everything that we're doing was about getting on a plane to do the next thing. So that was kind of part of the culture at V2I. Now with COVID, I think the culture has shifted a little bit because everyone is at home. So how do we make sure that everyone feels supported even though we're at home? So we've implemented a stand-up. So every morning we get together and we have a stand-up at 9:30 a.m. our time. It's an opportunity for us to be social and to see each other as humans and to recognize that this is a really tough time. So every stand-up every morning starts with two simple questions. One question is a word that you're feeling. So it could be I'm feeling overwhelmed, could be I'm feeling really afraid because I don't know what the future of the world, of our industry, of whatever is going to look like. It could be just any word. It could be I'm feeling okay. So I've showed up sometimes and said I'm feeling okay. Like it's been worse and it's been better, and I'm just right in the middle. And that's a really good way for all of us just to get the pulse of where everyone's at and how everyone's feeling. And then the other thing that we do is just discuss two things that we're grateful for. And that could be anything, just to balance things out. Like, I'm grateful for an audiobook that I'm listening to right now, and I'm grateful for my morning walks with my son. These are the two things that I'm grateful for today. And it just humanizes everybody, and it gives perspective about, yes, this is really tough, but yes, there's also a lot of good things happening. And then we just move into kind of discussing work and how everyone's doing and where do people need support. And it just kind of helps you get that intel that before we were gathering in a very informal way when we're all just sitting together talking about our days and talking about our meetings that are popping up and the things that we would have had to do. So that's kind of a little bit about where we are right now.
That's great. It sounds like you guys are definitely making adjustments, but trying to make it work. I saw the Gratefulness Challenge that V2I is putting on, which I think is awesome. And it's a good reminder that in general, when I do those activities, I feel better about my day and my life. So I think it's important for everyone.
Yeah, totally.
Great to hear. And then also a lot of what you and I have talked about in regards to V2I and where you're spending time in your projects is how you prioritize, how you think about which issues the organization should put its effort towards, where the most return would be from a value perspective on those communities. How has this impacted the way that you're thinking about how V2I should be prioritizing, both now and then also in the future? How are you thinking about how this might change things moving forward?
Yeah, so when our co-working space closed and everyone started to work from home, it became evident that things are going to change, or things have changed, and there's going to be a lot of uncertainty in the future. And we started to think about three main pillars. What are the things that we should be doing right now? What are the things that we want to do when things open back up and go to the new normal? And what new things are we going to explore to create a more sustainable future for V2I? So what are the things that we should be doing right now? I mean, we know that this is a time that's specifically hard for our partner NGOs. They are on the front lines in Rwanda and Romania and Nepal, in some of the hardest hit countries in the world. And they are experiencing a lot of issues with their staffing. They've never been forced to work remotely before, or have to figure out how to deliver the programs in a virtual manner, or collaborate remotely, or any of those things. So there were a lot of gaps for our partners and the people that are effectively delivering the programs to the beneficiaries and the marginalized communities that we all serve. And so we had to kind of pull together quickly and say, we need to figure out what are the biggest things that they're struggling with. And we need to start offering free webinars, free sessions, free trainings to really kind of help them figure out ways to deliver their programs effectively and safely, and sometimes virtually. And then also, how do we help them manage those projects, manage communications, manage collaboration, all the things that your sector, Sam, like Mulesoft, Salesforce, all these companies are really, really good at. How do we bring that into the NGO sector and empower them to still work, to still communicate, to still collaborate, but move that into a different platform or a different space? The second consideration that we had to make was our volunteers. Our volunteers are corporate professionals, and they come from a lot of different tech companies. And I know that there's just a lot of fear and anxiety for people in the workplace in general. There's a lot of worry about the future of work. There's a lot of worry about working and parenting and delivering. And there's a lot of worry about potentially, in a worst case scenario, crash, or some people losing their jobs or whatever. So mental health is people are strained from a mental health perspective. There's just a lot of stress and anxiety right now at this time. So then the thinking was, how do we support our volunteers that we're so committed to and that are an integral part of our community? And so that's where the Gratitude Challenge came in. That's where our Wholehearted Thursdays series is coming in. So we're doing a series anywhere from helping people with personal coaching, to working out together, to to the art of chai. How do we make a really great cup of chai to reduce your stress and anxiety and feel a little bit more connected and rooted, so you can help others around you and just feel like you're a part of a community. So these are all the things that we had to kind of think about for the right now. What do we do right now to support our community partners and volunteers in this really, really new and difficult time? The second thing is, how do we move with business as usual? So we know that this is not forever, because nothing is forever. So when we know that we want amazing partners to take our volunteers to volunteer with, and we want really amazing projects. So we continued pursuing those projects, those proposals, those conversations with different countries around the world. You know, this morning I was on a call with Uganda, with Brazil, with Indonesia. So there's lots of different opportunities with lots of different partners that require the help of our skill-based volunteers. And these are things that we're planning for post-COVID. And then the last thing that we're thinking about right now is we are noticing some vulnerabilities in our model of operation. We've built an entire organization that's solely based on putting people on planes to deliver the impact that we seek to achieve. So, you know, COVID is a wake-up call, is a call for us to say, okay, are there any other ways for us to deliver our impact? And are there any other ways to bring the same companies and same employees and that are invested in our work to also invest in it in potentially a slightly different way, but not lose the why we do what we do, but support it in case, if, when another interruption happens, we're a little bit more prepared.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think that's an impact across not just NGOs, but all industries, is really how are you connecting with customers? How are you connecting with your own employees, both now and then also how are you going to operate in the future, knowing these changes will likely occur again, whether or not they're in this form or a different one, likely a different one, hopefully. But it's a great point. And I think that's awesome to hear that you're really managing to consider the future and the current state. I think that's the hardest time right now, is it's everyone's first instinct to just say, what can we do right now? But it's awesome that you're taking the time to think about how can you prepare for this in the future, or other changes. So that's great. So in that same vein, what would you recommend for nonprofit organizations who are trying to make an impact right now? To your point, so much of nonprofit work is face-to-face. So how can they think about, in the same way that you have with V2I, really restructuring their organization and rethinking about their challenges while still maintaining business as usual?
Yeah. I think with nonprofits, we get stuck on programs and we lose sight of purpose. So for example, Venture to Impact exists to connect really skilled people with individuals and communities that need their skills but can never pay for them or access them. A program, or the programs of Venture to Impact, are taking people from San Francisco, from New York, from London, from whatever, and taking them to Indonesia, to Rwanda, to wherever, to physically volunteer. That's one way of achieving our purpose. But really what all organizations need to focus on is our purpose. Why do we exist? What is the thing that we do that connects us to our beneficiaries and adds value to them? And who are the stakeholders that join us in that thing to deliver the program to our stakeholders? So when it's a purpose-related conversation, purpose gives you a lot of flexibility to move in a lot of different ways. Maybe today you're doing online training sessions. Maybe tomorrow you're doing gratitude challenges. Maybe, like, purpose can open the door for a lot of things. When it's a program where you're like, I need to get people on a plane for me to be able to do anything, then you'll just wait until that industry opens back up and there's
stagnate.
yeah, you just never know when it's going to open up, and we don't know what that's going to look like, and we don't know what the new normal is going to look like. So there is, to your point, stagnation and a yeah, an effective like freezing. Just you're stuck.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I think that's really good advice. And I know at Salesforce, we think about the same thing as far as really being a values driven company and thinking, how does everything we do go back to those values? And it's the same for a nonprofit organization or any organization, which is, it's a good reminder. So Fadi, it was awesome chatting with you today. Do you have any last items on the sharing list around COVID-19 or your life right now, or how your son is handling this time, probably loving it with you guys at home?
Yeah, he's too young. He has no idea what's going on. He gets 3 walks a day. He's loving it. But what I'm curious about is you've been such an amazing interviewer, but would you share a little bit about how has COVID-19 impacted you personally, and you know how you've been able to kind of cope with that, and then what's happening on the work front, and how you guys tackle that?
Yeah, sure. So it's amazing how different various weeks feel. And I think I can see this across all of my colleagues and friends, where one week we're, wow, this is such amazing time where we can get back and learn how to meditate. And then another week, it's like, this feels like the world is ending. And it's just kind of this up and down experience. And I think that's what I'm learning the most, is that everyone is experiencing this so differently, and just really being empathetic, and even when I'm in a high period, knowing that other people might be in a low, and vice versa. I'm sheltering in place primarily at my parents' house, which means that I've had awesome family time. I also feel sometimes like I'm back in high school and adapting to that lifestyle a little bit again, but it's been amazing, and I feel really, really lucky. From a work perspective, I think it was a tough initial transition. Typically, I was going into an office, and now I don't have that same human contact, which I miss, frankly. But we on my team are really focused on leaving our cameras on and talking about our days, and not losing that same human contact that you get in person. Whereas initially it was sort of like, nobody wants to be on a video chat, so let's just get down to business right away. And we realized that that was sort of taking away from our relationships and taking away from our productivity, because we weren't valuing those other pieces as heavily. And so again, it's sort of this, my sister and I always say to each other, like, nothing matters right now. Don't go by a specific plan, go by adapting and trying things out, because we just have no idea how to operate in this way, and nobody does, frankly. So it's kind of this nice feeling of unification, where everyone is new to this activity and this motion. But yeah, no, work's been busy and good. I think the tech industry is really lucky that we have already relied on technology so much to communicate, that it wasn't as tough of a transition as it would be for a nonprofit organization or so many other companies out there. But we're all learning as we go.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah. Well, it was awesome chatting, Fadi. I'm excited one day to be back on a plane, even though we're not going to be relying on it anymore. Back on a plane, hopefully with you volunteering somewhere in a new location. And thanks for all the insight on how you're operating V2I.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for your time.